A lot of people don't like touching. That's why when you're sitting on the train next to a stranger, you don't really want them touching you. You'll get real small in the seat. But touching is personal. And the truth of the matter is, we live in such an impersonal world. You put someone in a situation in public where they have to wait, a doctor's office, the motor vehicles, the bus stop, the airport, they just waiting, and you know what they're doing? Yeah. Looking at their phone. And there's nothing on their phone now that wasn't there the last time they looked. You know what it is? It's a crutch. I have something that will allow me to be in this public setting without having to come in touch or contact with you. I have my iPod. That thing is aptly named.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's I. I have my iPhone. Come on, somebody. Why are these things the most popular ones of them all?
Jesus. Jesus.
Because it's about. I'm not touching anybody else. I got my iPhone, my iPod, and I'm thinking about me, myself, and I. God's saying unto us, we need to reach out and touch someone. We need to touch some people. This man who came to Jesus was a leper. He came to him and worshiped him. How can you be a worshiping leper? By his issues and his problems and his circumstances, he still found it within himself to worship. And God says, how many of people today don't have anything near the stigma and the problem of leprosy, and yet can't find it within themselves to worship me? We are talking about a leper. Someone who has this skin disease, and yet from a spiritual perspective is now declared unclean. Leviticus 13 verse 45. It says, and the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent. So the first thing he had to do, if you were a leper, you had to tear your clothes. Then it says, and his head bare. Amen. And really the Amplifier says, and his hair should hang loose. In other words, what it means, you weren't supposed to comb your hair anymore.
Oh, Lord.
And he shall put a covering upon his upper lip. Know what that meant? It meant he had to cover his mouth. Amen. And then he had to cry, unclean, unclean.
Oh, Lord.
Can you imagine that? This is what lepers had. They had to announce a warning against anybody who might have been coming close to them. Don't come too close to me because I'm unclean. It was a terrible thing to be a leper. Amen. We got to see something about this leper. This leper was bold. Because first of all, this leper came to Jesus. The leper had enough sense to know, I got to come to Jesus. He had a faith. There was something on the inside that said, you know what? I know I'm not supposed to come around other people, but I can come to Jesus. I know I can't. I know I can't come around other people, but I need to come to Jesus. There's nobody else that I can come to who can help me, but there's something about that Jesus man, I can come to him.
Amen. That's right.
And the leper came to him. If you got a problem, please come to God with it. The leper had bold faith. The first thing was, what did he do? He came. The second thing, he worshiped. And he worshiped him, and he said, Lord. So what did he do? He acknowledged him. He came to him, he worshiped him, and he acknowledged him as God. God said, if you will acknowledge me in all your ways, I will direct your path. He's coming now, and he's acknowledging him as God. So he came, he worshiped, he acknowledged, he requested, and then he received. Remember, this is a leper. Amen? Remember, he's supposed to be outside the camp. remember, he's unclean. And if you touch him, you become unclean too. But Jesus put forth his hand. He reached out his hand. And what did he do? He touched him. Now, how many of you know Jesus could heal just by his word? Centurion say, speak the word only, Lord. You don't need to come to my house. Speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. So why did Jesus touch him? Why? Because he understood that at this point in time, in this society, touching a leper was something that everybody would say, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to touch that person. Why? Because if I touch him, I'm going to become unclean. If I touch him, what he has, I'm going to have. And yet Jesus touched him. But before he touched him, he spoke some words of compassion. You can cleanse me if you want to, Jesus. Jesus said, I will. And he said, be clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. Why did Jesus touch him? Jesus wasn't afraid to touch him. See, because people said, if I touch him, then I'm going to have what he has. I'm going to be unclean, and I'm going to have to go outside the camp, and I have to, you're unclean, unclean. I'm not touching him. But Jesus wasn't worried about that, because Jesus said this. He said, listen, I'm going to touch him because I'm not going to get what he has. He's going to get what I have.
Amen.
See, when you're afraid to get what else somebody else had, you won't touch him. But when you begin to realize what you have on the inside of you, he said, I'm not worried about touching him, because if I touch him, he can't give me what he has, but I can give him what I have.
Amen.
How many of us don't touch people? Because we're scared to get what they got. I'm not going around Jim, man. Why? He got such a bad attitude. That's why I don't want him bringing me down. You worry about getting what the other person has. That means you don't know what you got.
That's right.
If you knew what you had, you wouldn't be concerned about coming in contact with a negative person, a person with a bad attitude, a grumbling person, or any kind of person like that, because you said, I'm not worried about getting what they have. When I come into contact with them, they're going to get what I have.
Amen.
But see, you got to know what's in you. So Jesus wasn't concerned about touching this leper. He said, this leper can't give me what he has. But I can give him what I have. But the only way I can do it, I got to touch him.